Welcome back to One Comic Book Day, where we're covering Superman 82 in the first story, Lois Lane Joins WACS. I'm not sure that should be plural. You see, WACS stands for Women's Auxiliary Corps. They were the female military organization at the time. It was eventually disbanded in the 1970s when women were allowed to join the male versions as just the army. So they could just be in the army. They were allowed in the army, so there didn't need to be a women's auxiliary corps or a women's army auxiliary corps, as it was also referred to. That was WAC with two A's, but I don't think that should be plural. It's just WAC. It's a corps. It's already plural, as it is a group of people. Now, this is a propaganda piece, which makes sense why we're doing propaganda pieces. The Korean War is happening right now. It's barely been hit upon. There was a propaganda piece not too long ago, but this is something related to a propaganda piece. It definitely wants to be a propaganda piece, but can never quite get there. And it is interesting to tackle women being in the military, seeing that this comic is not really read by many women. It's mostly young boys, but I'm fascinated that they decided to do this story. It fails at being a propaganda piece, and it fails at most of everything it's doing because it essentially is trying to complete three different stories. There's the propaganda piece that goes away pretty quickly because it doesn't seem to be all that interested in what WAC does. Like, I had to look up WAC to fully understand it. This gives me no information on WAC. Now, what it goes with for like half the story, unfortunately, is a Lois Lane focused story, which is nice, but it's the 1950s, so a Lois Lane focused story is going to be about her being jealous. This specifically being jealous about a woman being into Clark, specifically Sergeant Mulvaney, who is running recruitment into WAC, which leads Lois into joining WAC because all she wants to do is keep Clark away from the story, so she puts herself in the story by joining WAC. Not great motivation already, and also she complains that she's not into Clark, but the lady doth protest too much. This is the only reason Lois does anything anymore, is to be jealous of another woman, who she on multiple occasions refers to as a blonde vampire, but Mulvaney has kind of reddish brown hair at best. In fact, the first time she uses it, we see another recruit who is blonde signed up, and I thought that was who she was talking about. That's not Sergeant Mulvaney. Mulvaney is into Clark and is at war with her, so this is basically a story, or at least half a story, about two women fighting over Clark Kent. So that's not great already. Well, it's trying to be a propaganda piece. It forgets about the whole propaganda. It is mostly about Sergeant Mulvaney trying to punish Lois by giving her crap detail. And then Clark as Superman helping her out, like with the dishes and a few other chores. There's also some chaos to be had at the base for Superman to get involved with, in case you were afraid that this isn't a Superman story. It barely is a Superman story. That's few and far between, and it barely has anything to do with the rest of the plot, so that's not working. You could argue that's maybe a fourth plot, but not really. It's not a plot. Superman's there. He does a thing every so often. The second half of the comic, which is where they seem to find what should have been the plot, is Lois discovering one of the other recruits in her regiment has a tiny little spy camera. So she thinks she's a spy. And Lois is now interested in solving if this roommate is a spy. See, that's an actual story. We can do something with that. That makes sense for Lois, who is an investigator, but we've already spent so much time on the whole jealousy plot, there isn't really much time for this. Also, we had to throw in more action scenes with Superman. So it turns out she's not a spy. It's a very simple thing. She is also a reporter. So Lois in the end gets scooped, I guess because she was selfish. I know these stories don't need a moral or a purpose, but even when you don't intend one, you can have one. So it does feel like Lois is punished for being sort of selfish and jealous. And part of that's really kind of sexist towards her. I can't really get behind these morals, and I just don't like this comic. I wish it would have chosen what it wanted to be. None of these things needed to be mutually exclusive, as in the propaganda piece, the jealousy storyline, or the spy story, but they have to kind of go into each other more, or else they are what they currently are, where it feels like we switch from one A plot to another A plot instead of like a B and C plot. Okay, that is it from Superman 82. Lois Lane Joins WACS. WACS? If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman story and other Detective Comics or Batman. Probably not this week. My wife will be home and makes recording hard. Until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the Man of Tomorrow. And seriously, what happened to the Sergeant Mulvaney plot? Why isn't Clark going out with her? She wants to go out with him. Okay, have a great day.